Welcome back, Halloweenies, to Spooky Spectacle, where we celebrate Halloween and all things spooky, not once a year, but all year long. In today's video, I'm going to walk you step by step through how to build a drop panel wall for your next haunted house. Before we begin breaking down how we built the drop panel wall, we just want to mention that this specific drop panel wall is going to be used in our Halloween walkthrough, hopefully this October. With that in mind, we want the dimensions for our walkthrough to be 6 feet high by 4.5 to 5 feet wide. So the first thing you need is a material to build the front of your drop panel wall. We ended up choosing a 4x8 piece of plywood, which we cut down to 4x6. For the drop panel, I tore apart an old mirror that I had. I figured that the wood backing to the mirror would make an excellent drop panel, as well as it would give me clear dimensions when it's time to pick a photo to put on it. Another important feature that I want to point out while we're looking at the front of the drop panel wall is the little peephole. All we did to create the hole was just use a drill, and now whoever's on the other side can see when an unexpected guest is coming their way. Now let's take a look at the back side. First, for the support system. For this, we used 2x4s and we created a triangle pattern to support the weight of the drop panel wall. When the wall is in position in your haunted house or your haunted walkthrough, you can then use sandbags for extra support. The wide base is perfect in our situation because the back side is going to be outside of our haunted house. This is going to allow us to be able to put up a tarp and perhaps some other amenities for the person who's going to be scaring people. We also added another 2x4 across the base to add a little bit more support. As for the dropping method, we ended up using spare pieces of plywood that we had. On the left side, we used 2 pieces of extra plywood we had lying around and screwed them into place, making sure that the top piece was overlapping the bottom piece. And then if we take a look at the bottom, we use the exact same method where we have 1 piece of extra plywood we had lying around, but behind it we put an extra piece of 2x4. Now this is really important because when the drop panel falls, it's going to need something to brace for impact. Originally, we had 2 pieces of plywood on the bottom, but the force of the impact caused it to crack and break really easily, so we upgraded to the 2x4. Then if we look at the back side of the actual drop panel, you can see that we screwed on a tiny handle to lift it up, as well as a locking mechanism. The locking mechanism was by far the hardest part we had to deal with. Originally, we put 1 part of the locking mechanism on the drop panel itself and 1 part on the plywood. Unfortunately, they weren't level and so the lock mechanism didn't work. On our next attempt, we cut off the bottom portion of the drop panel and we placed it underneath the locking mechanism on either side to level it out. This did allow us to actually lock the locking mechanism, and that's when we ran into our second problem. For the right side piece of guiding wood, we used the same principle as the left side, where we used 2 pieces of plywood and we screwed them into place. Unfortunately, the lock would not go behind the 2 pieces as there was not enough space. So what we did to correct this was we added a 3rd piece of plywood to the right side. This gave us just enough space to allow for the locking mechanism that was attached to the drop panel portion to slide underneath the guiding wood frames. It took my husband and I 3 days to get to this point. And here you can see how easy it is to lift the drop panel back in place and lock it. Or should I say, not so easy. So we did notice that we had a tiny little itsy-bitsy problem, which is that we had to put the drop panel on an angle to fit the lock in and hold it in place. We're not professional builders by any means, but if you have an idea on how we could fix that, I'd be interested to see your comments in the comment section below. And voila, there you have it, a drop panel wall. All that was left was for us to test it out. Well, thanks for watching, guys. As always, if you liked the video, make sure to subscribe and smash that like button. Also, if you have any ideas for any other DIY projects you'd like to see on the channel, just leave us a comment in the comment section below. Stay spooky, Halloweenies!